good morning, afternoon, or evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Success Happy Hour Experience with Rob. I'm your host. And today we're talking about a brilliant topic, banking. How can you sidestep it? Seems like banks control everything that we do. How can entrepreneurs leapfrog the banks? And today with me are the guests of the Wealth of Bay Street podcast, Jayson and Richard. How are you guys? What's going on?
We're doing awesome. Yeah, we've been leapfrogging all day long. And, it reminds me when you talk about the banking system and how it, has control, just take a look. You don't have to look any further than what's going on out there in the environment that we're seeing right now. Everything costs more. Inflation is skyrocketing. Interest rates are climbing. Everything's becoming more expensive. And you've got a fraction of the population who say, boy, those big, bad, greedy corporations. Well, if they really wanted all the increases, why have they just begun to do that recently? Why hasn't it been that way all along? There's got to be something else that's going on there. It's the central banking system that's created the biggest mess that we've ever seen. And people who are practicing the process of becoming your own banker, the infinite banking concept, that's the leapfrog. The leapfrog is to become the banker in your life as it relates to your needs, so that you no longer have to abdicate the responsibility and, most importantly, the opportunity by permitting someone else and some other organization to perform that function for you in your life. All the income that you're earning right now is flowing through the books of someone else's bank. If you have the ability to take control of that function and become the banker as it relates to your needs, how much capital would you want to continue flowing through someone else's system? The answer should be zero.
Yeah, it should be zero.
The alternative is to continue letting someone else do that, and you're just penalizing yourself.
If you really want the banks to be uber profitable and continue doing what they're doing and constantly feel like you're oppressed in some nature by the fees and the chipping away at every dollar that you earn and all the hoops that they make you jump through on a consistent and regular basis. Like, I mean, if you're fine with that, I guess that's okay. I would wonder why that's the case. I suspect if you're watching, listening in, you're probably looking on how you can exit, have more control over those kinds of things, how you can find more areas of success in your life. And one of the areas that we're constantly looking for improvement and success is in our financial life. And controlling the banking function is one of the areas where you can do that. And by doing it, by implementing some different ideas, some strategies in your life, not only can you have more control, but you can also start to be part of a greater solution around the funny money, the monopoly money that's been created by the Bank of Canada and so on and so forth over the last number of years, pumped into the marketplace to let's just say, create a false sense of security.
Would you guys agree that one of the worst things that happened in the world of finance was next to Woodrow Wilson, which created the Fed Reserve? I think Richard Nixon's the second worst president in the history of the United States.
Took us off the gold standard.
That's right. So you have a floating fiat currency model where the central banks can just hit print. And they can just keep printing, which devalues your currency daily. And if you look at our notes, right? These nice $5 notes here, whatnot. Or you just take a whop of money out. I'm just going to see what cash is in my pocket because I love this reference, guys. And it's great to have you on the show. You take a look in here. I've got about $50. Yeah, it's about $50 here. You have no control over this. And what's happening now today is they're even trying to do measures to wipe out cash, which is crazy and deadly to your freedom. But if you take a look at this, and this is a silver bullet here. This is a 1 ounce of pure silver. What do you think most people would gravitate to? The $50 on the table or this silver bullet just sitting there? That's the 1 ounce. It's like the red pill, blue pill kind of formula, right? Yeah. And obviously that's a form of real wealth, but it illustrates something of real money and things outside of it, like crypto. So what is infinite banking exactly? And how do people get into this? Because this concept is brilliant. I had a guest a couple of weeks ago, Francois Lanthier, talk about this. That's actually coming up in an episode on the Success Happy Hour. But what is it exactly, gents, from your perspective? And why is this so powerful? And how can people get into this to manage cash flow? I know it's a loaded set of questions, but this has whipped open a huge conversation that people can. It's like, why do people have crypto wallets? And why is there always the negative news on crypto? Or why is gold and silver artificially suppressed? It's because they're forms of real wealth that they can't control.
Yeah, well, what we're talking about first and foremost is the process, right? The process of banking. If you think of anybody who's watching this and listening to this, they all bank. It's a common anomaly in our daily lives. That's how we transact goods and services. That's how we finance the things that we need throughout our lifetime: vehicles, property, business equipment for entrepreneurs who are tuning in and who want to leapfrog the banks,
Loans.
technology, loans, lines of credit. The list goes on and on and on. And the fact of the matter is that everyone that we meet for the first time is not controlling any of that function in their life. So the essence of the infinite banking concept, the process of becoming your own banker, is to recapture the interest, to recapture the money that you're presently paying to banks for all those things that you need to finance throughout your lifetime. And you're going to need the use of money throughout your lifetime, whatever form that money is in: digital currency, cash, coin,
Or
whatever
bullets.
it is, you're going to need the use of money
Robert Kiyosaki believes in bullets
for the rest of your life. And so the fact of the matter is that until a listener or a viewer, until you understand the problem, the solution that we discuss just won't matter to you at all. And so it all begins with reading the book titled Becoming Your Own Banker, which was authored by our late mentor, R. Nelson Nash. This book has sold more than 500,000 copies, and it's
You need to get me a copy of that.
We're going to send you a copy of that. It's a 92-page read. It takes less than an afternoon to get through, but it's going to open your eyes up to a whole new financial world. So everything begins there, in reading the book and understanding the problem. The problem is ridiculously simple. You're doing all the work to earn all of your income, regardless of the source: rental income, T4 income, dividend income, interest income. Regardless of the source, you're doing the work to earn it. Maybe you have tenants who are paying you rental income. Maybe you've got a business that's paying you interest or dividend income. But the fact is, every penny of that is flowing through the books of someone else's bank. That's a problem. The solution to the problem is to become your own banker and start changing the flow of that money so it flows to your system and the wealth stays in your family and it stays within your control. Guess who, if you understood the tool that's used to implement this process: dividend paying participating whole life insurance policies that are used as a tool to implement this, guess who the largest purchasers are of this tool on the planet, outside of the banks? The most wealthy people on the planet.
Yes, of course.
So when you hear someone say, like from Mr. Dave Ramsey, one of the biggest balloon heads I've ever come to know, who says you don't need life insurance because when you're at a certain age, you'll be self-insured. Do you know what people are buying the most life insurance at that stage in their life? The most wealthy. So what does that tell you? They're either, according to Dave Ramsey, really stupid
or really smart,
or they know something that you and I don't. Which one do you think it is?
How well are those people doing with the market just tanked like 34, 50% here in the last couple of months?
No kidding.
There's not a whole lot of self-insurance left there. And they don't realize that in the types of vehicles that good old Dave is promoting and suggesting, that there's a monstrous tax bill waiting upon death for those people as well. Well, we know that death is coming. We know that the taxes are coming. Wouldn't it make sense to plan for both of those things? And people do a pretty shitty job of planning for them. But if you incorporated a method of planning for them that also allowed you the freedom and capacity to create and craft your own private source of financing for everything that you're already spending money on throughout your entire lifetime, and you can use generational thinking to teach that to your family line so that you can create a perpetual motion outside of the traditional banking system that's been suppressing you down, aren't you a little bit better off?
Oh, yeah. I mean, listen, this is brilliant. You think about it. I think if you look at crypto, I don't know the exact numbers, but I do know gold and silver, for instance, in its physical minted bullion form, which is the best way to own it. In fact, the Canadian Mint produces some of the best bullion in the world. This is a form of real wealth that sits out of the financial system. You can lock it up, vault it, bury it in a sandbox in the backyard, and dig it up and still have access to it. You know, the crypto wallets, well, they can now tax and seize what's on the exchange, but the crypto companies were pretty smart. They said, you're not touching what's in the accounts though, because those accounts are cold locked and they're offshore and they're like Swiss bank accounts. And there's certain limits to any reach of governance that can happen. So you have that in mind, but to be able to flip a universal whole life dividend insurance package and to flip it in a way that it pays you out and helps leverage you to lend against it and to create your own banking system, to me sounds brilliant, because you really think about it. You could have somebody who's a billionaire, but if it's all in the stock market and it's all in paper assets and it's all in deeds and trusts that aren't fully owned yet, who owns it? They actually don't.
That's right. Where
That's
does
crazy. It's a click of the button could erase them. An angry a tax collector at CRA or the IRS can make their life hell for a while. Well, they have the firepower to have that person erased, literally by in tax court. They will win that fight, but it's the headache that could be caused from that. Now, imagine just saying, "Well, I've had enough of all of you. Sayonara. I'm moving to Costa Rica, and I'm taking my whole enterprise with me in a chip."
Capital's mobile.
They can't stop you.
Capital is mobile, and capital does not require a passport. Capital will flow to where it's most respected and well taken care of. And the fundamental truth, and we talk a lot about this, is we talk about what Nelson taught us. And he taught us that your wealth, in whatever form that wealth is, your wealth must reside somewhere. That's a fundamental truth. And so when you understand the solution to this problem, you're going to know exactly what to do. And to get there, you've got to first recognize the problem so that the solution becomes clear and you know exactly what to do. And the best starting point is our Nelson Nash's book titled Becoming Your Own Banker. And the tool that we use to implement this process is dividend paying, participating whole life insurance, whether it's one contract or a series of contracts, ideally with a mutual life company, but it's just a tool. It's much like what you were sharing when we talked about the Success Happy Hour experience. And you talked about, hey, you know what? I still spend some of my time bartending. You need tools to do that job. And if you put the best tool in the hands of an incompetent,
it's still incompetent.
Yeah, not only is the incompetent not going to turn out any good work with the tool, they're likely going to break the darn tool. And so that's why you've got to work with a great coach. This is all that we do. This is all that we specialize in. The past 15 years, educating Canadians coast to coast on how to implement and embrace this process, especially entrepreneurs, whether you're in startup mode, stable mode, or durable business mode. Someone and some organization has to perform the banking function as it relates to your business needs. Entrepreneurs want to be in a position of total and absolute control. This process puts you in that position. It just is meant to happen gradually and incrementally over a period of time.
Yeah. And why wouldn't someone want to tune into the Wealth Without Bay Street? You guys could even say the Wealth Without Wall Street, or the Wealth Without
well, our colleagues
banks.
actually shout out to Russ and Joey in the United States who actually
and cheers to that with some Blanco tequila.
The Wealth Without Wall Street podcast. Shout out to those guys. They're just awesome. Amazing.
Cheers.
And when we named the Wealth Without Bay Street podcast, we actually reached out to Russ and Joey and said, hey, you know, we've known each other for years. This is what we're thinking of doing. We'd like your blessing on it because we're first out of the gate with the Wealth Without Wall Street brand. And we want to build that for Canada under the Wealth Without Bay Street brand. And without hesitation, they said, guys, run with it. Like, you're going to do amazing. And true to form, I mean, I don't know how many gazillion downloads we've had, but we've got a pretty damn popular podcast and people love
that's cool.
The content. And, you know, we specialize in this process, and gosh, it's these 15 years have gone by so fast and we've still got so much great work to do, but more and more people are becoming aware because of the platform that we're on right now.
Yeah. And, you know, the virtual world has changed so much. Up till 15 years ago, the only things that you could really utilize to safeguard yourself before the inception of this book and the insights that your mentor put together, is it R. Nelson Nash? Is that correct? R.
Yeah.
Nelson Nash. So you look at it, your only option was bullion. Oh, wow.
There's
Yeah, he
Nelson.
looks like a wise man.
Yeah,
But the
sure
but
was.
you know, you look at this, and now in the digital world, you can go offshore and live virtually as a digital nomad. You can take your crypto wallet and walk abroad. You can do the ancient way of doing it, where as long as it's under $10,000 currency equivalent of stamped bullion, it could be all billed in $50 stamped gold coins, but each one of those coins is an ounce of gold. Pure gold. It's worth a lot more than $50, but you can, this was the ancient rich guy, a rich girl way of crossing a border. Now you can do it with banking. I mean, what's the loss of opportunity cost for people to not pursue this? I would think freedom would be your biggest loss.
It's a super good question, because similar to, you know, the idea of, again, using gold, silver, the reason people are trying to circle back to those types of things is because they are widely known as a store of value. And now with the advent of the crypto space, people are discovering that the possibilities of that being a store of value as well, and the ability to move it, you know, across borders, et cetera. But before doing all those things, or whether you're doing those things or not, the process of banking underpins all of that still. And so when you, for a lot of people that we help and we serve, they want to get back to more of the gold and silver type of things. A lot of people are getting involved in certain aspects of their own, you know, mechanism through the crypto world. But what they do first is they run their funny money currency, their Canadian currency, into well-designed insurance contracts that are optimized to constantly have uninterrupted growth. Then they access what we call policy loan, which is a contractual element that they have with the life company, because they co-own the company. They co-own the lender. The money's growing inside of the machine that they co-own the company. They must return the profits to the owners, which is, you know, Jayson and I are owners of the company. Many of our clients are. We access a policy loan, and then they use that to go and buy the thing that they want. So that might be, you know, a whole bunch of gold bullion, a whole bunch of Canadian maple leaf coins, buying 25, you know, sleeves of 25. Monster boxes. Maybe they're moving their money into an exchange to purchase Bitcoin, whatever they're doing. But now they have the capital working in two locations. It's always stored and in growth mode in an uninterrupted compounding mechanism of the insurance contract itself, because there's fundamental aspects, contractual elements that we build into these things to make them work. But then they're also getting the other thing they want. So they're really being able to work with capital more than one way. They have it in the insurance contract. They're using the insurance company's money, which they co-own, to go and acquire the other thing that they want. So they're really in an empowered position. And one of the things we talked about here again is, you know, Nixon and taking us off the gold standard and the fiat currency. Well, the inflation problem that we're dealing with right now, our mentor Nelson taught us really clearly that who creates the inflation? We like to think that it's the central bank and it's the bankers. That's not entirely true.
It's the borrowers.
What they have is the ability to increase the money supply, but the money can't actually come into being unless there's a demand for the money. So what increases the money supply is the demand, which is the borrower. So if you're a borrower today and you're going and asking for a new mortgage and a refinance and a business loan and a line of credit and all of these things, that's when the money's actually coming into being. So the person that's creating the inflation is you. It's us.
It's interesting. Yes. I actually had this conversation with someone today. I can't remember who, but it's exactly that. So when they raise the basis points, say 2, 3, 4 points, I mean, I have a general understanding of finance, probably better than most, and just a lot of common sense and being in business and sales. But common sense dictates if I raise the cost of borrowing, I'm flushing bad debt. People are going to go bankrupt. They're going to go belly up. They're going to have to do consumer proposals or package it to get out of from under if they're not able to power pay it. Now, your best thing to do is if you're carrying some debt right now, I mean, I'm carrying some, I'm just power pay it. Like, you know, if you've got a minimum payment of $300 for something a month, put 1,000 down, just watch it just fall. I mean, these are other things to get out from under too, and taking away the power and control that they have on you.
Yeah.
And you're right. And what deflates inflation, if everybody started power paying their debts down, we will probably start to clobber inflation as well. It would have an effect on it.
Here's the deal, Rob. Become your own banker, then do that.
Yeah,
so it's just
totally
right. So
sense.
Here's lost opportunity cost in a nutshell.
There you go.
I want you to think about all the money that has flowed through your hands up to this point in your lifetime.
Yeah,
I'm talking about for everything.
Oh yeah,
every single thing. Think about
Lots. If you're middle age, at least $1.5 million has floated through your hands in your lifetime so far.
So
At
whatever the number
least.
is, here's the lost opportunity cost.
All that money.
Unless you can write me a check for that amount of money right now, you realize the problem. That money's gone. You can never earn interest on it again, not only for the rest of your lifetime, but for every generation that comes after you. That's not only lost opportunity cost, that is very depressing for people to hear.
Well, you know what, though? I don't think it's depressing. I think it's a positive because you can change now. It's like the ancient Chinese proverb. You know, we talk success and we talk growth on this show. We celebrate it with drinks, bring joy. Here's a successful, positive thought for all the viewers right now. When's the best time to plant a tree? Well, 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant it? Right now.
Yeah. We tell people all the time, Rob.
Plant it.
Now that you know what the problem is.
Time to start planting a tree.
You know what the solution to the problem is. Well, we hear from people all the time. I wish I would have known about this X number of years ago, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
Yeah, for sure. But why beat yourself up on it?
You cannot say that 5, 10, 20 years from now.
No, because you've been presented that opportunity today.
That's right. You're going to need to use some money for the rest of your lifetime.
So you might as well start capitalizing on it. Yep.
Big time. Well, someone has to perform this function as it relates to your needs. That someone should be you.
Yeah. The only other way you're going to win in banking is if you've got a ton of money and you're offshore in the Caymans or something like that, and you're paying zero tax.
I've never met anyone yet who has said, gosh, I really feel like I'm not taxed enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, because they get killed because they do. You're right. Because in a tax haven, this is a great point of discussion as we get towards wrapping things up. You're in a tax haven. Yeah, you dodge income tax, but consumption tax is through the roof compared to what we pay. It's a reverse of taxation. So when you have high income tax, the problem with high income tax is people get to skirt it because if you're rich enough, you pay yourself in loans. You can't tax loans. In fact, you get to write off some of the interest depending on what situation you're in. If you're high tax, you'll pay yourself a lower salary or dividend out yourself a bigger piece of the pie in order to pay little to no tax. So it skirts the tax system right down to people who are, you know, the high income earners like doctors of hospitals and people who are in sales that aren't self-employed. They got to pay massive taxes. But if you're consumption based, you punch even the richest people right in the chest because now they have to pay it because who consumes more than anybody else? The richest people. They buy the biggest toys and the biggest bells and whistles, right? So in order to gain absolute control, I mean, we're definitely going to learn more about this. You know, I'll definitely have you guys on future shows to talk more about this because this is a fascinating topic. Isn't this something that the average person, say like myself, you know, sitting in decent income, can take control of right now?
Absolutely. You do not have to be rich to get into the banking business.
You just have to get at it.
You need a little bit of understanding. You need to read 92 pages and you need to make a decision to take action. That's about it.
That's it.
Awesome. Just not dealing with the banks.
Now, if you enjoyed this conversation, I know I sure did. You want to keep learning, check out the rest of it. Head over to the link right here and learn the secret roadmap that actually fixes everything. You're going to love it.